About 1/3 of the homes in California are multifamily units, and saving energy in these units has significant potential. For a perspective, we turn to Beckie Menten, Research Fellow with the California Public Utilities Commission. This is Switzer Network News.
The importance of having energy efficiency with multifamily dwellings stems from the proportion of greenhouse gas emissions that are accounted for in the building energy usage sector. And multifamily units account for 1/3 of all dwelling units in California, so it's a substantial portion of those dwelling units. And unfortunately, to date, it's a portion of those dwelling units that has been almost entirely overlooked in the policy recommendations, particularly those related to climate change.
I want to make sure, Beckie, that we define what multifamily units mean, and maybe there's some misconceptions about that.
That's a big part of the problem, in fact. Multifamily unit definitions vary from agency to agency, and even within the regulatory code, it varies. For example, a low-rise multifamily residential unit, that is a unit of 2 or more dwellings, but less than 4 habitable floors. That's a low-rise residential unit per the California Energy Code. You would model that under the Residential Energy Code. But a commercial unit would be considered one of 5 stories or more. So even within the California State Energy Code, there's varying definitions and treatments for multifamily residential structures. If you want to talk the U.S. Census, the U.S. Census considers a multifamily unit anything that's 2 units or more. So this includes townhomes, condos, all of those structures. The California Public Utilities Commission, within its regulatory programs, has differing definitions for multifamily as well. For low income, it's 5 units or more. For some of their new home construction programs, it's 4 units or more. This just plethora of definitions for multifamily units has really caused a lot of confusion within the regulatory agency.
Confusion, I get that. But at the same time, it's different when you're talking to a single homeowner, a condo owner, townhome owner. They may be able to implement or execute energy efficiency measures. When you're talking about multiple units that may be owned by a company or a variety of entities, so the question there is, how do we get energy efficiency to move forward in the context of these larger units?
Well, if you can give me the answer to that question, then you have figured out the course of my year's worth of research. As it turns out, you hit the nail on the head. The problem with multifamily, in many cases, is that really the way building science is moving nowadays is towards a whole house building approach, where you need to look at the entire building as a system and understand the interactions of different dwelling units, understand the interactions of different systems. What we've seen, for example, in the single family housing is there's a big push and emphasis towards ceiling buildings, getting very tight buildings, weatherization programs, for example. But then a lot of times you have problems with combustion safety appliances that aren't prepared to deal with such tight buildings. And because of that, you can have conflicts with systems. So now the science is moving towards a whole building approach where you really analyze the entire system and address it as a cohesive unit. That is a big part of designing an energy efficiency program that can treat a multifamily unit with a whole house perspective, is trying to find a good way to overcome these barriers, to treat the building comprehensively, to get all the tenants on board, or find a streamlined process for approving the entire building for treatment.
So aside from all of the difficulties, the challenges, the impediments, what have you seen as a best practice or an example of a whole building that really is energy efficient?
I would like to punt that question and say that really a lot of those best practices are being ferreted out as we speak here in the Bay Area. A lot of really exciting projects have started, funded from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the ARRA-funded projects. For example, the City of San Francisco itself is doing a very innovative multifamily rehabilitation project focused on low income. Across the Bay, over in Alameda County, they're also developing a best practices formulation for whole house, but on high-rise buildings in multifamily. The California Public Utilities Commission has some very aggressive targets for improving the efficiency of existing buildings. Per the California Energy Efficiency Strategic Plan, they'd like to see all new construction zero net energy by 2020. And they would also like to see, I believe it's a 40% decrease in existing building usage by 2020, which is an extraordinarily aggressive target. An important thing to know is that building energy efficiency provides the highest return on investment of any of the proposed measures to respond to climate change. Because of this, if we focus our near-term efforts on building energy efficiency, we're going to be able to respond more readily to the more expensive and more technology-oriented solutions that come down the road in the future. However, the multifamily sector has been overlooked thus far, and it is a very important part of the puzzle. We have 1/3 of all residences in the state of California are multifamily, and yet none of the proposed regulatory approaches to date have a very good strategy for reaching this very important sector. And it's important that we don't leave it behind as we move forward, because the opportunities that lie there will be crucial in helping us to achieve the more difficult targets down the road.
For more information about this topic, please visit our website. This is Switzer Network News.